So how it is connected to the placenta? Placenta, we can say it will provide nutrition, it will give gas from pole to equator, or from high altitude region to the plains, we can say the temperature. It is baby, it is reducing the survival, but it is not hampering any growth of the deer. Okay, so if the pregnancy happens, then it is retained for 9 months. If not, then every month it is. Hello students, welcome to Alan Overseas. I hope your preparations are going well, and to enhance the preparation, we'll be discussing 90 most important questions for all the NEET aspirants of 2023. Out of those 90 questions, 30 will be discussed for physics, 30 are of chemistry, and 30 are of biology, out of which I will be taking part 2, 10 questions. Okay? For the videos of other subjects, all are mentioned in the playlist which is there in the description box. Okay, so we'll discuss question number 11. Identify the correct match for the column 1, 2, 3. So if we discuss column 1, mutualism. We know in the interaction of mutualism, it is beneficial for both the species which are interacting with each other. So if we see in column 2, plus sign is written in the C option, where it is beneficial for both the species. And now we come with column 3 for examples. Now we know in mutualism, when the interaction is beneficial for both the species, out of these all examples, our answer we can say is lichens. Why it is lichens? We can discuss. Lichens is an interaction of the algae and fungi. And if we discuss, we know that for food, fungi is dependent on algae. So fungi is getting pre-prepared food from algae, so it is getting benefited. And how this interaction is beneficial for the algae? Fungi is very efficient in absorbing the water and minerals from the soil. Therefore, algae for water, for minerals, for protection, it is dependent on fungi. So we can say this interaction is beneficial for both. Okay. Next is competition. Competition is it is a species interaction. Okay. We can say which is harmful for both of them. So here only in one option it is minus. So it is harmful for both of them. Now we come again back to the examples. Then for this, it written in NCERT. We can say the example is the first one, visiting flamingos and resident fishes in South American lakes. And why this example is of competition? Now, we generally assume that competition is always between related species. This is how NCERT says. But here, if we see, these are totally unrelated species. Flamingos and resident fishes are unrelated species. Resident fishes are, we can say they are the native to the South American lakes, while flamingos are visiting over there. And they both have competition for the zooplanktons in that area. So we can say this is an interaction which is harmful for both of them, and therefore it is an example of competition. So we can say this is the, for competition, our option will be 1. Next, predation. Now, predation is a species interaction which is beneficial for one and harmful for another. So we can say only one plus minus is there. Therefore, our answer for predation will be plus and minus. Now, we have to find the example. Now, starfish pisaster in American Pacific coast and cattle, egret birds and cattle is there. So our answer will be starfish pisaster in American Pacific coast. So it was found that how predation in the type of interaction is very essential in maintaining the species diversity of a particular area, because experimentally when pisaster was removed in the American Pacific coast, it was found that many species of invertebrate had got completely extinct within a year. So by that you can understand that how predator and prey relationship is important, how it is maintaining balance, and if the predator is removed, then how the prey is affected, and so we can say it also helps in maintaining the diversity of that particular prey population. So that's why this is an example of that, in which once the predator is removed, then the prey population is affected. Okay, so that is the answer for predation. And last is commensalism. In commensalism, the interaction is beneficial for one and no effect for another, neither harmful nor beneficial. And its example is cattle, egret birds and cattle. Now, how this example is of commensalism? When the cattle is feeding on grass, then while feeding, some insects come out of the soil and the egret birds feed on those insects. So for cattle, this interaction is no effect because it is not benefiting, you can say it is not getting benefited. But egret birds, yes, this interaction is beneficial because they are not putting much efforts and they are directly feeding on the insects which accidentally had come out when cattle was grazing on the grass. Okay, so our option will be answer 1C4. Okay, 1C4 lichens. Yes, that's correct, and that is in 2 options. So next we'll move 2 and then D and 1. So 2D1 is only in seconds, and therefore our answer is second. Okay, so now we'll be moving to the next question. How many of the following statements are correct in reference of predation? Okay. So we have already discussed before discussing all these options. We know predation is a plus-minus interaction where it is beneficial for one and it is harmful for another species. Okay. Now we read the statements. Ecosystem may become unstable in absence of predators. Yes, it is a correct statement. In this question, we have to find the correct statement. So yes, this is a correct statement. How this is a correct statement? Suppose we see a food chain in which grass is eaten by the deer, and suppose deer is eaten by lion. So if anyhow, see, ecosystem becomes unstable in absence of predator. If suppose we remove this predator, okay, then what will happen? You can say the population of deer will increase. Why? Because its predator is now we have removed from the food chain. And therefore the grass will decrease because all of them will have start having competition amongst themselves for that common food, that is grass. So it will create unbalance in the ecosystem. Maybe when the grass is, it will become very less, some amount of deer will die, and thus we can say the ecosystem or the food chain becomes unbalanced. So this can be a very simple example of this statement, and hence we can say that this statement is a correct statement. Next, predators can be used as biological control agents for pest control. That is also a correct statement. How? For example, we discussed by Gambusia fish. The Gambusia fish is released in wherever there are a lot of mosquito larvae multiplying. So to counteract the population, the increasing population of the mosquito larvae, Gambusia fishes are used, okay, because they feed on the mosquito larvae. So that can be an example that predator, which is in this example a Gambusia fish, can be used as control agents, the population of the mosquito larva for pest control. Okay, so this statement is also correct. So we can say this, and this is correct. Next, predators help in maintaining species diversity in a community. Now, predators helps in maintaining species diversity in a community. That is also correct. Just now we had seen the example in which if the starfish pisaster is removed, then many of these species of invertebrates were very less, or we can say it decreased within a year. So that can be a best example that in which if the predator is removed from any particular area, then the species of the prey will also decrease. The diversity will decrease. So that's also correct example. Predator helps in maintaining species diversity, variability in a community. And the last one, fitness of both the interacting species is significantly lower than predation. That is an incorrect statement, we can say. Therefore, we can say our A, B, C statement is a correct statement, and therefore 3 statements are correct, and it has been asked how many statements are correct. So our answer will be 3 statements are correct, and hence our answer is second. Okay. Now the next question. They may reduce the survival, growth, and reproduction of the other organisms and reduce its population density. Okay, so we are reading a statement. They might render the organisms more vulnerable to predation by making it physically weak. So they are asking about which type of interaction it is. They are predator. We know predator, it is beneficial for one species and harmful for another. If we say parasite, same, beneficial for one species, harmful for another. If we see amensalism, then it is harmful for one species and no effect for another, neither harmful nor benefited. And commensalism, again, it is beneficial for one species and no harm, no benefit for another species. Now we come back to our statement and find out of these interactions what is our answer. So they may reduce the survival, growth and reproduction of the other organisms. Simply, it is parasitic relationship or interaction and not predator. Why? Because if a lion is eating a deer, it is reducing the survival, but it is not hampering any growth of the deer. Okay, so by that you can understand that it's simply, this statement is telling us about a parasite, in which a parasite is generally always harmful for the host. Why? Because it is for the food, for lodging, it is dependent, it is free lodging and food, you can say service provided by the host to the parasite. Therefore, we can say it is always, in a way, it is harmful for that host. So, it may reduce the survival, yes, growth and reproduction. If reproduction is affected of the host, then we can say its numbers will decrease gradually with time and reduce its population density. And hence, with time, when the parasite is continuously taking nutrition from the host, so it may happen that it will be more weak. So it is written, making it physically weak. And if the host is physically weak, then it will be more vulnerable for the predator, for predation, because any predator would easily attack any host which is physically weak. So these all statements are related, and hence our answer is parasite. So I hope it is clear to you. So answer is second. Okay. Now we'll discuss next question. Which statement is incorrect? So we have to find the incorrect statement. Okay. There is increase in biodiversity from pole to equator. Nicely see the statements. Increase in biodiversity. Okay, so that's a correct statement. What happens whenever we are moving from pole to the equator? Okay, from any sub-zero temperatures or very low temperatures to a constant temperature zone, higher temperature zone, then diversity will increase. Okay, so there is increase in biodiversity because more favorable changes, more favorable environmental conditions will be there, more stable environment will be there, and therefore we can say population diversity or ecosystem diversity will be more. There is increase in, okay, again increase in biodiversity from low altitude to high altitude. From low altitude to high altitude. This is an incorrect statement. Why this is incorrect? Because it is similar actually to the first statement. As we are moving from pole or high altitude regions to the equator or any low altitude regions, okay, like simultaneously if we see from pole to equator or from high altitude region to the plains, we can say the temperature is becoming more moderate, more favorable for organisms to survive as compared to poles or high altitude regions where the temperature is too low, and therefore we can say more favorable conditions are there, more organisms will reproduce and there will be population increase and there will be also diversity available. So this is a wrong statement. Next, there is directly proportional relationship between area and biodiversity. Yes, it is correct. More is the area if we see. Okay, more will be the biodiversity. So yes, it is a directly, you can say, proportional relationship between area and biodiversity. And last statement, tropics have less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable environment. Yes, that's a correct statement, and that is also a statement which can support this line, that because tropics have less seasonal variations, relatively more constant and predictable environment, there are not much seasonal changes, more stable environmental conditions. So we can say vast variety of organisms can better adapt and better survive in that region, and therefore there will be more biodiversity in the equator as compared to the poles. So this is also a correct statement. So hence we had to find an incorrect statement, and therefore our answer is second. That's an incorrect statement. Okay. So we move further to the next question. Identify A, B, C, D in the given diagram. Okay. So we'll identify A, B, C, D. Okay. So if we have already, this graph is there in NCERT, and if we start, what happens is, what is shown actually in the x-axis shows the direction of flow of the river. So it is not a stagnant water body, but it's a flowing river, a free flowing river. So that's there in the x-axis, and on the y-axis it is we have to answer that. Okay, so this area is actually the area where there is, suppose, no sewage disposal is there, and we can assume that the water conditions are favorable, the dissolved oxygen is very high or much, and the biological oxygen demand in this area is low. That means we can say this water is less polluted. No sewage discharge is there in this area. So if the water is less polluted, so it is favorable for aquatic organisms to multiply. So we can say that the dissolved oxygen is high and the oxygen demand will be low. So I can now predict that D is showing us the concentration. Okay. It is showing us the concentration. So D is showing us the concentration, which is there in two options. Simultaneously, we'll save time and see the options. Also, two options it is given. Okay. So we are concentrating on two options. Now we have to find B and C also and A also. Now suppose assume sewage discharge happens, okay, in a particular area, confined area. So we can say A will be sewage discharge. So at a particular area or zone, sewage discharge. Now, whenever sewage is discharged, it contains more biodegradable organic matter, okay? And that biodegradable organic matter acts as substrate for microorganisms. So, more is the sewage discharge, more is the biodegradable organic matter, more is the organic matter, more microorganisms will multiply. More microorganisms are multiplying, more oxygen they need. They need oxygen in order to work. More oxygen they need, so dissolved oxygen will reduce. So if A is our sewage discharge, at this point, what will happen? Dissolved oxygen will fall down, okay? Now, dissolved oxygen is reducing. Or we can say in a way that when dissolved oxygen is reducing and these organisms are multiplying, their demand of oxygen is increasing. So we can say biological oxygen demand is increasing. So it's a simple relationship. More is the sewage discharge, more the microorganisms will multiply in order to degrade this sewage which contains biodegradable organic matter. So we can say their biological oxygen demand will rise because they need more oxygen. They have already consumed whatever dissolved oxygen was present in that particular area. So their oxygen demand will increase. And we can also say it is inversely proportional to dissolved oxygen, and the dissolved oxygen will reduce. Okay. So this is the sewage discharge. So we can say the dissolved oxygen will reduce and the biological oxygen demand will increase. Okay. Now further, if we see, since the river is flowing, so we can say that, okay, the dissolved oxygen will increase with time. As the river is flowing, it is taking time. The sewage is also dispersed. So with time, again, the dissolved oxygen will increase and the biological oxygen demand will decrease. So we can say, now easily we can predict A is the sewage discharge. So that is also given in the option. And then your B will be the dissolved oxygen, okay, because here sewage disposal was there, so dissolved oxygen decreased, biological oxygen demand increased, and when the river was flowing, again biological oxygen demand will fall and dissolved oxygen will increase. Therefore, our option is, okay. So next question. Statement 1. The placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord. Yes, correct. Which helps in transport of substances to and fro from embryo. Yes, okay, correct. To and from embryo, that's correct. Let's suppose if this is the embryo, the growing embryo. Okay, this is the growing embryo, and we know that it is connected to through the umbilical cord. Okay, this is the amniotic cavity, suppose, in which it is developing, and then suppose this is the placenta. Okay. Okay, these are all extra embryonic membranes. So how this developing embryo will take nutrition from the placenta? This developing embryo will take nutrition. This embryo is there enclosed in the amniotic cavity, which is there filled with amniotic fluid. So how it is connected to the placenta? Placenta, we can say it will provide nutrition. It will give gases, all the minerals, ions, and essential food substrates to the developing embryo. So how? There is a cord-like structure. There is a thread-like structure, umbilical cord-like structure, which connects this developing embryo, which is deeply embedded into the amniotic cavity, with placenta. So that's a correct statement. Placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord, which helps in transport of substances to and from embryo. Okay, all the you can say undigested waste will be given from the embryo to the placenta, again via umbilical cord. Statement 2. So that's a correct statement. After implantation, okay, they are talking about implantation, trophoblast gets differentiated into outer layer ectoderm and inner layer endoderm. That's an incorrect statement. Actually, we know that trophoblast is an outer layer. Okay, suppose this is trophoblast. When zygote formation takes place and further development takes place of zygote to embryo, okay, when there is continuous cleavage divisions happens, then morula is formed and then blastula is formed. So the blastula is the stage where this blastula is implanted into the endometrium of the, you can say, of the mother. So there an outer layer is formed that is called as trophoblast, and there are some inner cells which aggregate at one place, and this is called as inner cell mass. Okay, inner cell mass, and this is the trophoblast, outer layer. Okay, the trophoblast helps in implantation, okay, and it also forms extraembryonic membranes, and actually it is the inner cell mass, okay, this aggregation which forms the future embryo. So this inner cell mass divides into outer ectoderm and inner endoderm, and not the trophoblast. The trophoblast is an outer layer of the, you can say, the blastocyst, which helps in implantation, and it also forms the extraembryonic membranes. So after implantation, the trophoblast, no, actually the inner cell mass gets differentiated into outer layer, that's ectoderm, and inner layer, that's endoderm. So if we see our options, then we know statement 1 is a correct answer, while statement 2 is incorrect. So our answer goes to answer number 3. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. Okay, so we move to the next question. Again, statement based question. Statement 1, amniocentesis is a fetal sex determination test. Yes, that's correct. Based on chromosomal pattern, yes, has statutory ban in India for sex determination. Yes, that's a correct statement. The fetal cells are taken, the fluid, the amniotic fluid into which the embryo is developing, that is aspirated, and fetal cells are tested for any genetic abnormality in the developing fetus. Okay, so it tells us actually the chromosomal pattern. But that can also detect the sex of the fetus, and therefore a statutory ban is there on this practice in order to curb down the increasing female foeticide happening in India, and therefore the fetal sex determination is banned by using this amniocentesis. So that's a correct statement. Next. Periodic abstinence is one of the natural methods in which couple avoid the coitus from 18 to 28th day of menstrual cycle. This is a wrong statement. Okay, periodic abstinence is one of the natural method of contraception. That's correct statement. Okay, in which the couples abstain from having sex from 10th to 17th day of menstrual cycle. Okay, and not 18 to 28 days. So this is incorrect. Okay, if we say menstrual cycle is of 28 days, because it is variable, suppose we are considering, NCERT has considered a 28-day menstrual cycle. So suppose the menstrual cycle is of 28 days, then 14th day is the day of ovulation. Okay, that means secondary oocyte is there inside the fallopian tube. Okay, day of ovulation. That means the secondary oocyte is there in the fallopian tube. So we can say approximately 3-4 days before and after. So from 10th day to the 17th day is considered as the risk period, because there is a probability that that secondary oocyte is there in the fallopian tube. And therefore, in this period, couples abstain from having sexual intercourse. So it is one of the natural method where no artificial or any exogenous contraceptive chemicals or any other method is used. It is a natural method in which just the menstrual cycle is calculated, and we can say from the 10th to 17th day, the couples abstain from having sexual intercourse. So we can say periodic abstinence is the natural method, but the coitus is avoided from 10th to 17th day of menstrual cycle. So this statement is an incorrect statement, and hence again statement 1 is correct, and hence our answer is 3rd. Okay, the next one. Read the following statements about the female reproductive system and choose the correct statements. Okay, we have to find the correct statement. Okay, perimetrium. So they are discussing about the histological layers of the uterus. So outermost we know is the perimetrium. Then inner to that is the middle layer is myometrium, and innermost is endometrium. So this is perimetrium, this is myometrium, and this is endometrium. Okay, it's just if we draw. Okay, just we assume. Then perimetrium of uterus is outermost. So yes, this is perimetrium. It is the outermost layer. Thin membranous layer. Yes, that's a correct statement. Next is myometrium, the middle one. So we'll read myometrium is a middle thick layer of skeletal muscles. That's wrong. It is a middle thick layer of smooth muscles and not skeletal muscles. So this is an incorrect statement. Endometrium is a inner. Yes, endometrium, the inner one is the endometrium. The innermost is endometrium. Inner non-glandular, it is a glandular layer of the uterus and it is not non-glandular. So again, this is an incorrect statement. The last statement, endometrium of uterus undergoes cyclic changes during menstrual cycle. Yes, every month the endometrium is proliferated, okay, by the estrogen and then maintained, okay, in order to, if the pregnancy happens, then it is retained for 9 months. If not, then every month it is, you can say it is removed. That is what is menstrual blood flow. So endometrium of uterus undergoes cyclic changes. Yes, it is the endometrium which proliferates during menstrual cycle. So that's a correct statement. So if we discuss, then our statement A and statement D is a correct statement, while B and C are wrong. So A and D only because correct statements are asked. Okay. The next one. Which of the following statements are true both for oogenesis and spermatogenesis? Commonly, it is compared oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Formation of polar body takes place. It is not true for both oogenesis and spermatogenesis. If we discuss, okay, spermatogenesis, then primary spermatocyte. Okay. If suppose this is one primary spermatocyte, then meiotic division takes place and it forms 2 secondary spermatocyte. Yes. And this 2 secondary spermatocyte forms 2 spermatids. Okay, each of them form 2 spermatids. So 2 and 2, so 4 spermatids in total, and that will form 4 sperms. So this happens. While if we discuss oogenesis, then we know the primary oocyte, okay, if suppose this is primary oocyte, when it undergoes meiotic division, it forms a polar body, okay, and 1 secondary spermatocyte. Okay, 1 secondary, and it forms 1 secondary oocyte. So there, we can say that there is equal nuclear division but unequal cytoplasmic division, by which 1 polar body is formed and 1 secondary oocyte is formed. Further division takes place, meiotic division, and this secondary oocyte forms the second polar body and then ooted and further ovum. So we can say, if we discuss, formation of polar body is happening only in oogenesis and it is not happening in spermatogenesis. So it is not a common process for both. Yes. Second, meiosis 2 completes before fertilization. Meiosis 2 completes before fertilization. It is again, it is not a common statement for both oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Why? Because it is not there in both the process. We can say, if we say oogenesis, then meiosis 2 completes before fertilization. Again, it is an incorrect statement. While for spermatogenesis, yes, meiosis 2 completes. Okay. So again, it is not a common statement for both. Next, it results in haploid gametes. Yes, gametes are haploid. So the primary spermatocyte is diploid. Okay. And primary oocyte is also diploid. And when gametes are formed out of this, here spermatids are formed and then 4 sperms are formed, they are haploid in nature. So that's correct. Both the gametes are haploid in nature. Next, 1 gamete is produced from each primary gametocyte. This is again not valid for both. How? Because if we see spermatogenesis from one primary gametocyte, they are asking. So from one primary spermatocyte, how many sperms are formed? If suppose we draw, then how many sperms are formed? 4 sperms are formed, okay? While from one primary oocyte, only one ovum is formed, ooted, and then ovum is formed. So again, we can say this is not a common statement for both. It is controlled by LH and FSH hormones. Yes, the entire spermatogenesis and oogenesis is controlled by LH and FSH. So again, this is a correct statement. So we have to find the most appropriate answer. So C and E are appropriate answers and rest all are wrong statements. So again, an answer is second. Okay. The next one. What is the correct sequence of embryonic development? Okay, so they are asking about the morula, blastula and gastrula stages. So this we know that when the sperm fuses with the secondary oocyte first, and then we can say the ovum, then zygote is formed. So when the zygote is formed, this zygote will further undergo cleavage divisions, okay? And it will form morula first, a solid ball of, you can say a solid ball of cells which is called as morula, 8 to 16 cell stage, that's called morula. Then morula undergoes further development and a blastocele is formed, a cavity is formed, and that stage is called as blastula. So then a blastula is formed, and then this blastula undergoes further development, and when morphogenetic movement takes place and 3 germ layers are formed, then that stage is called as gastrula. Okay. So first morula will form. Our first statement is only correct. Morula, first option, blastula, and then gastrula. Last is the morphogenetic movement takes place and 3 germ layers are formed. Before that, blastula is the stage where implantation will happen, and the first, you can say, is first stage which is formed after cleavage divisions in zygote is the morula. So our option number 1 is correct. That is morula, blastula, and gastrula. Okay. Okay, so with this we have discussed all the questions, the 10 questions of biology. Stay tuned with us for other videos. There is a common playlist which is there in the description box. Thank you for watching.